Good morning, everybody. I toast to you. I hope that you are having a fantastic day today and that your morning's going better than mine. Ha ha! Picked up the trash bag this morning to take the trash out because it's trash day. And even though there was only like a third of the bag, the whole bottom rips out. It's that kind of morning. So, cheers. It'll be a better day. So, with that said, and thinking about perspectives and also reading some posts about good and bad and black and white and evil and good magic or left hand practice or right hand practice or all of those different things. It just really brings me back to the same point that I made in a previous video about seeing the darkness from a pagan perspective, and that the darkness is not this bad place, and where that idea came from. So as Christianity took rise and became a part of governments and leadership and social norming, and they were using their religion in order to make their community better in the way that they saw. Now, no, they did not go about it the right way. They still don't go about it the right way, taking over communities and raping and pillaging and killing and conforming is not the way to go. But their intent in their own community was to make things better. You know, they preached not having multiple sexual partners because syphilis and other sexually transmitted diseases, which we might think are new, they're not. These are not new conundrums of our society. Syphilis was really, really, really bad during that time period, you know, at the beginning of Common Era. And medical professionals, clergy, people in charge saw that if you restricted the number of partners people had, the spread of disease goes down. So, of course, they put that into their religion. If you look at other cultures who had to deal with population control, there was more sacrifice of people in one way or the other. And people are like, well, the Christians didn't sacrifice people. I don't know what you would call putting someone on a crucifix, but I call that sacrifice. They weren't sacrificing their noble children in order to not only appease their gods, but also to maintain social norming and political powers and all of the things that needed to be dealt with in a kingdom and an empire. But they were killing people for lots of other reasons, you know, mainly not being Christian or being different. But during this whole time, in this transition, and moving away from following the moon as a calendar, and moving away from the goddess, and moving away from all of these aspects of paganism that didn't fit neatly into the Christian box, you know, a lot of things were just transformed. People celebrated the solstice, so they changed that into midsummer, which, let's not even use that example because I'm so irritated with people using Shakespeare as a historical reference. Shakespeare was not a historian. Shakespeare was a phenomenal story writer and a creative legend, but not a historian. Okay, so just keep that in mind when you're getting your information. You know, we read stuff from Homer, and some people say that that's, you know, like gospel, but that's not. Homer, just like Shakespeare, was an author and a storyteller, just like Chaucer, and just like all of these other. And however, yes, just like today, our storytellers take from modern real world experiences and turn them into a story. Do we really think about Star Wars and the number of people that just love Star Wars? Now, in 2,000 years, and they're looking back and they're digging up our stuff, and they see all this Star Wars stuff. Yeah, there are people who practice Jediism. And if you want to call the great energy that be the Force, more power to you. I'm not against that. However, people who love Star Wars that's not necessarily their religion. And in 2,000 years, not even, Shakespeare wasn't even that long ago. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, but not a historian, okay? Anyways, let's not talk about that. I'm having one of those days, so I'm kind of ranty. Definitely going to title this video, Rantings of a Phoenix. So, let's get back to this whole dark and light thing. So, as the politics and the religion and everything started to change and transition, and we start moving into this new society, there had to be ways to make it socially unacceptable to do the things that were normal before that they no longer wanted in the society. We do this now. This is something that societies do. It's a normal part of societal norming. But in the rise of the church, they had to get rid of the darkness. They had to get rid of these things that they didn't want. And what better way to do that than to make them evil, to make them bad, to make them negative. So they started putting all of these negative in, like, oh, the darkness is bad. Oh, anything that happens at night is bad. Oh, anybody who likes being out at night is bad. It's all evil, 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 evil. Which is crazy, because in nature, some of the most beautiful, amazing animals are only nocturnal. I mean, you think about the owl. The owl is amazing. It is beautiful. It is graceful. It is an elegant hunter. It is just an amazing animal. But it only comes out at night. So, there's just those many things that they just started to turn to evil and darkness. And now that has continued to carry on. If you read King Solomon's High Magic, Book of High Magic, oh, now I can't remember the exact title. Anyways, if you read that book, which is what Gerald Gardner and Crowley and a lot of these earlier authors took a lot of influence from. And I'm not saying there's not good information in that book, but King Solomon is one of the leaders of Christianity and the fathers of Christianity. He's like the beginning of the church, and he helped bring a lot of the church into what it is now. And so I just find it ironic that a lot of our magic is based off of that. But anyways, in his book, he makes it very clear throughout that book that you should not practice during the dark times, that you should not call dark energies, that you should be calling on God, the holy. So even as they tried to keep some magic and transform it into fit their reality, they were still pushing out that darkness. So now let's fast forward to modern times. And after 2,000 years of societal norming, saying that these things are bad and evil and negative, and that this is where bad things come from, we are taught this as a little kid. I mean, the number of kids who are scared of the dark, not because the dark is a scary place, but because their parents actually make them scared of the dark by small innuendos. I don't know if you guys, well, it's an interesting study if you're interested in psychology and learning about the way the brain works. I want to say his name was Albert. Maybe that was the baby's name. But one of the early scientists who did a lot of research on behavioral norming and behavioral cognitive development, did a lot of research on like how children become scared of mice. When a mom is like, when you see it, same thing with spiders. Children aren't innately scared of spiders. Babies will just walk up to a spider and pick it up. What makes them scared is that when the grown-ups around them say, every time they see one. And this is true with the darkness. You're not innately scared of the darkness. babies are born from the darkness. They spend the first 9 months of their life in pure darkness. And in fact, coming into the light and seeing the light is like the first traumatic experience that you have in life, which is ironic to think about how traumatic that experience is, and then we turn around and we shun the darkness. Anyways, so we are taught by society that the darkness is bad. We are taught by society that there's all of this negativity, that to ponder yourself or to think about yourself, to try to better yourself, which actually I've never even, until I just said these words now, never even thought about how in the church's eye, you better yourself to be more like God and Jesus and to be in their image and to do the things that they want. But in paganism, you better yourself to be the best you that you can be. Because that is the way that the gods have intended you to be, and therefore that's what you should do. So, see how long I've been ranting. Oh, it's only been 11 minutes. I guess, so let's just really get to that point. The church has convinced us through years of social norming that the darkness is a bad thing, and it's really not. Like I said, some of the most beautiful things happen in the darkness. Life is born from the darkness. Seeds germinate in the darkness. New ideas blossom from the darkness. Watch my darkness perspective video. It's great. It'll really help with all of that. But let's speak specifically onto magic. So when I started out my practice, just like most, and I tell people this too, I read Scott Cunningham's Guide to Solitary Practice. I read DJ Conway's books on Celtic spirituality. I read Eddie McCoy's books. I read Buckham's. I always say his name wrong because he's so strict in his teachings that it can be defeating to read his books, I feel. But there is good information. He's a great He's got a great knack for research. I like some of his stuff, but Raymond Buckland. We're going to go with that. I'm really bad with names, so if I ever meet you in person and I don't remember your name, don't take it personally. I don't remember anybody's names. So, when we start thinking about the darkness and about practicing magic in the darkness and doing these things in the darkness, it can be intimidating and we can be scared of it. And we've been told that you need to practice in the light and that you need to do things for good and that you should not do magic for yourself or for selfish gains. You know, the whole harm ye none, do as I will, what ye send back comes back times 3, that whole thing. I am not discrediting that. I fully believe in the science behind the law of 3 or karmatic retribution and the connectivity of the energy in the web that we live in. So in the sense that we are all connected and that energy reflects energy and opposites attract and blah, 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 and all of those different kind of principles of science and magic, there is validity in the Witch's Creed. But I don't think that the Witch's Creed was initially intended, or maybe it was, but I don't believe that it should be intended to say you can only do what I'm going to call from this moment forward, and please don't take this personally, but light fluffy bunny magic. I love fluffy magic. I loved it in the beginning of my practice. It was great. It's fun. I still do fluffy magic when I see somebody on the side of the road and I wish good things upon them, and I pray that they get their car fixed quickly or back on the path that they need to be on quickly, and that it is not the end of whatever their situation. And I send that good energy out. And when I see people who are in need, I wish upon them for them to receive the things that they need. Even if it's not something that I can provide, I wish for them to receive that. And that's great magic to put out into the world. That's great energy to put out into the world, and that's beautiful. But when I see a pedophile, I wish bad things upon them. And I wish for them to receive the karmatic retribution that they deserve for the horrible things that they're doing. And not, and that I do. Every pedophile, say it with me. We hex, curse, ban, remove pedophiles. We know that they exist and that they should be removed. And if we all talked about it, and we stopped sweeping it under the rug, and we stopped making it okay through secretization, then it would stop, or at least not become okay. So, anyways, see, I told you, Rantings of a Phoenix. If you've made it this far in the video, kudos, and I hope that really good things come to you, and that there are many blessings bestowed upon you. Yes, I really do wish that upon you. So, light fluffy magic, fluffy bunny magic is great, but it should not be the only thing that your practice consists of. If all of your practice consists of is light fluffy bunny magic, and you're up here in the clouds and you're wishing good things all the time and everything is really happy, you're just gonna float off. The reality is that life is not fluffy bunnies. Even bunnies who are fluffy are pretty gross, honestly, in reality of it. I mean, okay, not all bunnies, but wild bunnies, farm, whatever. They're not these sweet, cute, adorable, fantastic little creatures that we like to imagine them as. They, like any other animal, would scratch your face to survive. And this is a point that I made before about people are like, oh, I don't kill mice or bugs or do any of that because it's bad juju. No, if that cockroach was your size and it was a matter of who was going to eat that food on the floor or who was going to live in that house or who was going to survive, that cockroach would not hesitate to step on you or eat you or feed you to his children. Because that is the reality of nature. And it is a matter of survival. And when we try to pretend that that reality doesn't exist, we're like putting on blinders to very important parts in the world and things that are happening, and we just keep pretending that everything is all white fluffy bunny magic and that nothing bad will ever happen, and we can just wish every good thing in the world, and I wish for world peace every single time, and then it's going to happen. Well, that's not how that happens. In order for there to be world peace, we will have to cleanse this world of evil. And not like in the Bible, but in the fact that there are evil dictators all around the world who enslave their people and rape their children and do horrible things to their own communities. I know Americans are like, oh, we have the worst president in the world. And I don't want to talk politics, but really, if you think that America is the worst country in the world and that our government is the worst government, then you need to do some research on, like, other countries. I mean, even countries that you wouldn't even think are like let's take Brazil. I watched a thing recently on Vice News about coronavirus and how in the ghettos of Brazil, in the slums, in the places where they're living in these shanties on the sides of hills stacked on top of each other, coronavirus is spreading like crazy. But the Brazilian government talks as though it's not as bad as it is because the wealthy people in Brazil are not getting it. And that's not even like a country that's on the list of, like, if I was to say China or North Korea or whatever, people would be like, oh yeah, of course, duh. But no, there are bad people all over this world. There are selfish, horrible people who are only out for themselves. And if there's no good people to stand up and say, hey, I'm not going to tolerate this, and I will fight against you, and I will stand up against you, and I will do what's necessary to stop you. If we don't have those good people to stand up, then that's not going to change. And the more that we think that we can just fluffy bunny everything away, is like all of those parents that I've worked with who tell me, oh, they'll learn that later. Like, you're not going to teach your 2-year-old some respect or to listen or to follow directions? Oh, they're so little, they'll learn that later. No, people, they won't. It is your responsibility to be that bad guy, to be the boundaries, to be the person who's like, hey, that's not okay. I am baffled again and again and again at the number of times that, like, people will get beat up by some jerk in public, and people are standing there and nobody says anything. That's a problem. They just want to sit there and fluffy bunny magic, think it away like, oh, if I think happy thoughts, this will go away. Well, it doesn't. Somebody's got to say, hey, stop. Somebody's got to put their foot down. And sometimes that requires doing things that are less than fluffy bunny pleasant. And that's okay. That's just a part of your practice. That's a part of life. That's a part of nature. When I'm pulling weeds, I feel bad that I'm killing the plant, but as I pull the weed, I'm like, you can't live here because I need these plants that I'm trying to go to survive. When I kill the had some really pretty, check out my Twitter feed, Twitter feed, I had some really pretty Japanese scarab beetles in my garden that I was like, oh, these are so pretty, and then I did some research on what they were, and they're an invasive species of bug that eats flowering plants, and they are notorious for eating green beans, and I happen to have a lot of green beans in my garden, and all I could think of is these two bugs are going to eat all of my green beans and then lay eggs for next year because they were so fat and happy here. And the larvae kill your grass. Like, there's nothing, like, I'm sure in their environment they have a purpose and a whatnot, but here in this environment, they are an invasive species. They do not belong here. They're killing off bugs that are good. They don't have the same amount of predators. There's all of these things. And if we don't, so my sister said I was gangster. So what I did, because I don't like unnecessarily hurting an animal that's just trying to survive. So I took the bug and I put him in a jar and I told him, I said, you need to tell your friends that you guys cannot live here, and if they come here, they will end up in this jar too. She's like, you're gangster, Tara. That's like some mafia stuff. And I didn't find any for like a week, and then I found one more. I had taken the jar inside and was like, okay, we got the message out. I feel weird having this bug out here on display like this. So I took it inside, and I'm not joking. That afternoon, as I'm weeding, I find another one. So I get my jar. I told the bug, I said, you tell your friends right now, you guys cannot live here. You cannot lay your eggs here. You cannot be eating my plants. They need to go somewhere else, or they will end up in this jar too. And so now I have 2 scarabs in my jar. And I have not seen another one. But I had to take that initiative. You have to take that step. It's not all fluffy bunny magic. You can't just have one and not the other. You can't have a practice like that because it's out of balance. I guess I could just rant on all day, but I think it's time to stop and to look at what time it is. I can't see the timer on the camera without covering the screen. It's been a long time. I just really want you to think about your practice and about finding balance. And as a coven, we, after many years of arguing and fighting about what balance was and what it was to be at your center and blah, 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 came to the conclusion that you have to be at the center of your balance. And what does your balance look like? And what does your grounded center look like? And where are you? And you can't just lean to one side or the other. You can't have all left-handed or all right-handed practice. It's about balance and fluidity, and the energy is constantly moving. So keep that in mind as you start to practice and do your thing, or if you've practiced for a long time and you find that you have a trouble, find that balance, find that equilibrium, and stop equating everything to good and evil. There are evil people in this world, but I believe that they were created in such a way because they were given that opportunity through social norming and being taught that this is an option. You are good or bad. And when we tell somebody over and over again, you're good or bad, you have to pick one, and then they do something bad, and then they feel crappy that they did something bad, then they just think, I must be bad. And then they just go with that, and then they're like, well, I can just make bad choices. And I don't have to worry about those consequences because I've already accepted that I'm a bad person. But if we stop putting those norms on it, and it's not good or evil or bad or good, it's just we are, And sometimes you make poor choices, or sometimes you make choices that are in the best interest of you in that moment because you felt like that's what you needed to do to survive. That's okay. You don't need to punish yourself for that. You don't need to live in agony because you made one choice that led up to this thing, blah, blah, blah. That's not necessary. So, have patience with yourself. Have faith in the path that you've chosen. Know that you will find your center and your balance and what works for you when you stop trying to let everybody around you convince you that that's what you need to do. And don't be scared of the darkness. Stop thinking about it like the church has taught us to think about it. It is not that evil, dark place. So, let's toast to the darkness. Let's toast to the rising sun and the light. I toast to you. And now my coffee's gone, so I definitely have to end this video. I hope that everybody has a blessed day. I hope that you find the center of your balance. I hope that you find what works for you. And don't punish yourself forever because you made one choice that wasn't perfect. Don't feel like you have to draw a line and pick a side. We are all fluid, moving energy that is beautiful and growing and experiencing, and you have to live. So, on that final note, out of the darkness, in the crack in my garden, let's see if you see down here. You can see that it literally comes out of the crack between the stones. This beautiful tomato plant that is growing tomatoes all over the place. It is absolutely beautiful. Came up like a weed out of a crack in the garden. It's like there's no darkness. It's just beauty. Love you. Have a great day. Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And check out the other videos if you're curious. The darkness video is really great. It's from a couple weeks ago. So I hope everybody has a great day. See you later.